Now, before we start coding, let's discuss first our strategy. What are we trying to do in order to combine all of these data files together? So, Pandas has already a function that is able to read Excel files. Okay, so we can just call this function and we will be able to read Excel files. And even better, we can actually specify directly which one of the tabs or the sheets inside the Excel file we want to read. Okay, so we can just say, well, in this Excel file, you are going to read this specific tab. That's great. So to understand the whole strategy of what we're going to use here, allow me to use a metaphor. So we're gonna imagine that we're going to be creating shelves, and in each one of the layers of this shelf, we're going to have the data corresponding to one of the tabs, one of the months, okay? And we're going to create a shelf for each one of the data files, the transaction files that we have. Okay, so for example, in this case, we're looking at the shelf corresponding to the year 2020. Now, in Python, these shelves are actually a list, okay? A collection of items that we're going to store them. Okay, and we're going to have a shelf with as many layers as tabs in the Excel file that we're reading. Okay, great. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to invoke the pandas read Excel. We're going to specify that we want to read, for example, in the shelf related to 2020, we're going to read then the file 2020 data. And for the first layer, the first month, we're going to specify that we want to read the tab related to the first month. Okay, so we read it and we store it on that layer. Then we repeat the same procedure, but for the second month. And we continue to do this until we reach month 12. And this shelf is done. We have already gathered all of the data from the different sheets inside that Excel file, and we're ready to move into the next one. So all of this procedure, we repeat it for the next year, year 2021, and the same for the rest of the years. And by the end, we will have a collection of shelves, and in each one of the shelves, we have a layer, a level on which we have the data corresponding to that month and that year. So then it's just a matter of combining it all together. And by the way, this repetition in Python is done via loops. We're going to cover that later. So we just join all of this data, and then we actually have to combine this joint data with the store location. So that means that for each one of the transactions, we're going to find a match on which the wholesaler of that transaction is going to be matched with the wholesaler information in the store file, and that we want to match and assign the city, the region, and the coordinates for each one of those transactions.